The Samsung Galaxy A15 5G, and the 5G is an important distinction to make when talking about this device. That's why I put it in the title. Usually it's a given. I don't put 5G in the title for these, but the non-5G version of the A15 is powered by a Helio G99, and while that's not a bad processor, I've used it in plenty of devices. It's not the Dimensity 6100 Plus that's in the 5G, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Important part about this, $200. Link will be in the description. Does help the channel. It is a wonderful price point to get into One UI, and this device is incredibly popular both in the United States and abroad. Not quite as popular, I believe, as the A04, which is going to be the A05 now that was just recently released. But if you're looking for something that's a little bit less budget of an experience and you want a slightly better One UI performance, you're going to look at something like the A15 for $200. Great phone for your parents, great phone for you if you just need simple stuff, great phone, a first phone for a kid or something in high school. You want to give them something like this. There's a lot to like here for $200. So let's talk about it. Build quality, plastic all around, as you'd expect. Glass front, of course, but it's a nice-looking plastic. It's kind of in line with the rest of the S24 lineup. You got the flat-looking back here on the plastic. You also have the camera arrays stacked there like you get on the more expensive models, so that's something that you're not going to notice. What's great about all these budget devices that we always get is they keep some old-school features. So the A15 has a headphone jack if that's something that you really need. You love your wired headphones. It also has micro SD expandable storage, which people jump up and down about when the phones don't have it. So this one has it, so you can carry around extra pictures, movies, whatever. If you're offline, you're not you're on an airplane, something like that, you can have the extra stuff available to you here. So let's talk about that Dimensity 6100 Plus. Plenty of pop to run the 90 hertz display. No issues there. Light gaming is pretty good too. Let me tell you something. Played Pokemon Go on here. Good experience, smooth. There are going to be hiccups. I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're going to get a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 performance or anything like that, Gen 3 performance. No one's expecting that for $200. And save me, spare me the comments. I already could see them already saying, oh, well, Poco offers one that has a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 for $37. You know, keep it. Keep it. This is a well-rounded experience, an overall experience, a reliable experience with good software that's going to be supported, and that, to me, is what's important when you're buying something like this. This is running on the February patch, One UI 6, all the niceties of One UI 6. You're not going to get a ton of the AI stuff or any of the higher-end stuff that you get with One UI 6.1, but you're not really expecting that. Nice and smooth. You get all the aesthetics back and forth. Are there hiccups? Like I said, yes. Are there bits where it slows down? Yes. But my main sim has been in this, and it's been fine. 4 gigs of RAM. I would have maybe have liked 6. Even at this price range, you're going to have to be aggressive. You're going to have to go in, clean stuff out, make sure you don't have a million apps running because it does make a difference. 4 gigs of RAM is kind of that borderline area where you're really going to want to go into memory sometimes, or make sure you're closing out apps because it does noticeably improve performance. When you close out apps, it gets a little snappier, so that's something to keep in mind. I mentioned the 90 hertz display. It's an OLED. At this price point, not the most color accurate in the world, but it is vibrant. It's a nice experience. I like the way the colors look on it. I like the way gaming looks on it. It's a pretty good display, especially at this price point. If you remember some of those Nokia G-series devices with those awful, just absolutely awful washed out LCDs or something like that, we've moved well beyond that now with nice 90 hertz OLEDs on these budget devices. We talked about the headphone jack. Gaming is good. Battery life, really good. The Dimensity stuff, I've used a lot of the budget Dimensity stuff on some of the Moto devices in the last couple of years. And even though it's not a Snapdragon, I know people might get bothered by that, or a Qualcomm device. The Dimensity stuff is power efficient, gets the job done. 8.5 hours of battery life, screen on time on this guy here with no issues whatsoever. 5,000 milliamp hour battery, sips power. You'd expect it. It's not drawing down a ton of power, but still nice to be able to get that all-day battery life on a device like this, and then some. Really, I've been getting through entire days of not light usage either, 2 hours, 3 hours of screen on time, and still having 80% up here on the end of the day. 25-watt wired charging when you are done with it at the end of the day. Not terrible. It's kind of on par for Samsung at this point, so that's something you want to look at. Cameras, 50 megapixel, It's got kind of those other ones, the depth and the macro, I believe it is, with the triple camera setup on the back here. We'll throw up some shots. In really good lighting, you're going to get a good photo. You're going to get something worthy of Instagram. You're going to get nice color. It's going to be fun. Other lighting, when you start to get to the low lighting, you can see even indoor lighting, indirect lighting, that's when the colors are going to start to fade. But it's still relatively a detailed image. It's not a soft image. So you could do things with color and stuff like that if you want to sit there and tweak the image. You could turn up the saturation. You can mess with the white balance. You could do certain things to kind of trick it into giving you a decent image and representative image. So that's something fine. But the detail is there at least. The 50 megapixels gives you enough to work with that then you could then transfer it into a decent image. Overall, I got to say I'm impressed. Side-mounted fingerprint sensor feels relatively solid. Yeah, you got the teardrop waterfall and all the rest. You got the teardrop flat display with the chin. People are going to say it looks a little last week. That's fine. They can say that all they want. When you're going through this, scrolling Twitter, social media, Instagram, are you going to notice things, like I said, when it boot up, slow down, stuff like that? Yeah. But there's never a point where I felt like it was completely unusable. There was never a point when I said, you know what, I got to run back to my $1,200, $1,300 S24 Ultra. There's a lot that you're going to be able to do here for the money, especially when you talk about the different use cases. If you just need something for work, if you just need something to get you through your day, so like I said, social media, scrolling, you want stuff to look good on the display, light gaming, which is something that you really don't get at this price point a lot. That's why the Dimensity 6100 Plus is so important, because that little bit of gaming, you know, even if you're not doing heavy stuff, like I was playing Pokemon Go on this, nice experience. Able to throw curveballs, not a whole ton of slowdown. It's going to be enough to get you through your day and do WhatsApp and Facebook and Discord and all the rest of it without thinking that you're really on a super budget experience. But really you are. So with Samsung, I get it. That $200 is not going to a Snapdragon 7 series processor. I get it. It's not going to 6 and 8 gigs of RAM like you get from some of these other OEMs. However, you're getting a decent software experience. Up-to-date, Samsung, well-supported software experience on One UI. You're getting a solid build, getting a decent camera, good battery life. You have to look at the entire picture when you're looking at something like the A15 5G. Don't look at one spec, because that's the trap that we've fallen into with budget devices in the last couple years. They always give you one really outstanding thing that you think really shouldn't be at that price point. For a while, it was the 90 hertz display. You'd say, well, these devices are so cheap. How could they have a 90 hertz display? And that would be kind of the hook to draw you in. Now we're getting mature experiences at the $200 price point. This is a mature phone. This is the phone, like I said, to give your parent. Everybody who doesn't want an iPhone, doesn't want to give their parents an iPhone, their grandparents an iPhone, their kid an iPhone. They don't want an iPhone themselves if they don't do anything overly complicated on their device. They just want, like I said, social media, some work stuff, email, whatever. They're getting devices like this. That's why they're so popular. And with the A15, you're getting a nice, reliable Samsung experience that if you like One UI, if you're somebody who has used Samsung devices in the past, if you're coming from one of those horrid Android 10 Go devices or something like that, if you're coming from a J series Samsung you haven't updated in a few years, this is going to give you a nice upgrade in performance with the same reliable experience you're used to. So for me, if my budget's $200, I'm absolutely feeling comfortable picking up an A15 and enjoying everything that it gives me for the money. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.